Students, in lesson 11.1, we are going to be working on polygons, and our essential question that will guide our learning is, how can you identify and classify polygons? So we are going to learn about this figure on the right-hand side. The Castle de Monte in Apioia, Italy, was built more than 750 years ago. The fortress has one central building with 8 surrounding towers. Which polygon do you see repeated in the structure? How many sides, angles, and vertices does this polygon have? A polygon is a closed plane figure formed by 3 or more line segments that meet at points called vertices. It's named by the number of sides and angles it has. To identify the repeated polygon in the fortress, complete the table below. So the first polygon we have here is a triangle, which has 3 angles, and it has 3 vertices. Next we have a quadrilateral, which has 1, 2, 3, 4 angles, and then it has 4 vertices. Next we have a pentagon, which has 1 angle, 2 angles, 3, 4, and now boys and girls, it has 5 angles, but this is an irregular polygon, but this connects down to this math idea here that I want to talk about. It says sometimes the angles inside a polygon are greater than 180. In this example here, this would be one of those angles. It is greater than 180 degrees. So there are 5 angles there and 5 vertices. The hexagon has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides, 6 angles, and 6 vertices. Next we have a heptagon, which has 7 sides, 7 angles, and 7 vertices. An octagon, 8 sides, 8 angles, 8 vertices. A nonagon, 9 sides, 9 angles, 9 vertices. And a decagon, 10 sides, 10 angles, 10 vertices. So boys and girls, the octagon is the repeated polygon in the Castle de Monte because it has 8 sides, 8 angles, and 8 vertices. Now we're going to read about regular and irregular polygons. Regular polygons, when line segments have the same length or when angles have the same measure, they are congruent. In a regular polygon, all sides are congruent and all angles are congruent. So a regular polygon, all sides are congruent. We see it's 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 4 centimeters, and all angles are congruent, 180, 180, 180, 180, 180. So you can write the measurements to show congruent sides and congruent angles. Now we're going to look over here to a not regular polygon, and sometimes this is referred to as an irregular polygon. So in an irregular polygon, not all sides are congruent. We see that this side is congruent to that side. That's why they have 2 dashes on those line segments. And this side is congruent to that side. That's why there's 1 dash on those each. We see that there's 2 little arcs here on this angle to that one, but there's only a single arc here to this single arc. So not all sides are congruent and not all angles are congruent. So you can use the same markings to show the congruent sides and congruent angles. So although these 2 are congruent, these 2 are not congruent to the previous ones. So it says, label this. Label the Venn diagram to classify the polygons in each group. Then draw a polygon that belongs only to each group. So if we look over here in this part of the Venn diagram, we see that there is a right angle, 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 and a right angle. So we know that this side is describing congruent angles. Next, we look over here, we have congruent sides, And we see that these are all congruent sides as well. So we know that in this part of the Venn diagram, we're talking about congruent sides. Now in the middle, we have two different figures that have congruent sides and congruent angles. Congruent sides and incongruent angles. So these would be considered to be regular polygons in the middle. And additionally, what we could do is we can draw an additional shape. So over here, I'm going to draw this figure. It's not as nice as it would be if you drew it, boys and girls. Also a regular pentagon. And then I'm also going to draw a square over here. So those are just some additional figures that would be part of these different classifications of congruent angles, congruent sides, and congruent angles and congruent sides.